Thank you all for coming tonight on such a beautiful evening.
Okay.
All right, we'll get started in about 60 seconds. We'll just let people get settled here. I apologize for the dog barking in the background. I'm puppy sitting and did not plan well for this. All right, well, while the last few folks are trickling in, I'll just say hello, and my name is Grace. I'm with Personal Pack and also Jane's Army. I just wanted to note a couple of housekeeping items before we hear from our guest speakers. As you can see, the event is being recorded, so if you do not want to be visible on the recording, you can go ahead and take yourself off video, or you can change your name. Otherwise, we would love to see your friendly faces out there. And secondly, we will have a little bit of time later tonight to answer some audience questions. So if you have anything that comes up, please feel free to put it in the chat or to direct message it to me, and we'll try to get your questions answered. So with that, I'll pass it over to Hannah.
Thank you, Grace. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name is Hannah Fearley, and I'm a board member with Personal Pack and a co-chair of Future Voices Council and Jane's Army. As you know, the radical anti-choice movement has pursued a single goal of nearly 50 years, which is to overturn Roe v. Wade and ban abortion in every state, including Illinois. And now they finally have the US Supreme Court to make that happen, and they're wasting no time. The recent leaked draft opinion on the court's plan to overturn Roe made that 100% clear. In most states in America, Roe v. Wade is effectively already non-existent, with access to abortion unavailable. This impacts all of us. As you can see from the map on your screen, Illinois is currently the only state in the Midwest with laws that explicitly protect abortion, People between the two coasts will have no place to turn for their reproductive health care if we don't succeed in the 2022 Illinois elections. This election will have consequences for the next 50 years, and we cannot emphasize how profoundly important this particular election will be for the future of reproductive freedom in the Midwest. Which is why we're excited to have you here tonight, because your participation is essential. Let's get educated, engaged, and fight back at the ballot box this year. So with that, I'm honored to introduce our guest speakers. Most of you probably already know Terry Cosgrove, but he always deserves a special introduction. Oh, sorry. He has been the fearless leader of Personal Pack for the past 33 years, and he, along with the board of directors, have been instrumental in developing Personal Pack's sophisticated strategy for electing pro-choice candidates. And we're so grateful for his commitment to reproductive choice. Representative Terra Costa Howard is a lawyer, a small business owner, a teacher, a wife, a mother, and a tireless advocate for children and people in need. She was first elected as state representative in 2018 and was reelected in 2020. Now she is fighting for the values we all share: strengthening our schools, defending women in reproductive health care, lowering the tax burden on working families, and making quality healthcare affordable for everyone. She's a true reproductive rights champion who defeated one of the most anti-choice, anti-woman legislators, Peter Breen. I personally had the pleasure of hanging around Representative Costa Howard's office in 2018 when she was first elected, and I can tell that I know firsthand how hard she works and that she brings that fighting spirit with her to Springfield every day. Before we hear from our speakers, a quick reminder that we'll have time to answer some of your questions later this hour. So please drop any questions you have in the chat to Grace or me, and we'll try to get to them soon. With that, I'll pass it back over to Grace. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. So I know all of us have seen the news, been paying attention very closely, probably came out last weekend to rally and protest, but Terry, just for the sake of covering all our bases, can you just give us a super quick update on the Roe v. Wade draft opinion and what it could mean nationally? We'll get to Illinois in just a bit, but kind of the big picture.
Sure. And thank you everyone for being here. And one of my personal heroes, Terra Costa Howard. It's so great to share this forum with her tonight. She's such a champion for choice, and it's an honor really to have supported her and being here with her tonight. So, but as most of you know, Politico reported on a leaked draft of a decision that suggests that the US Supreme Court is going to overturn Roe v. Wade, which would end the constitutional right to abortion federally in the United States. And that would leave it up to each individual state and would have devastating consequences across the country. And if this decision is not changed from what was leaked, that means that they will explicitly overturn Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, and it would have huge devastating implications. Right now, at least 23 states have a pre-Roe abortion ban still on the books, or have passed so-called trigger laws that would sharply limit access to the procedure if Roe is to be overturned. It's estimated that 58% of American women of reproductive age, about 40 million women, live in states hostile to abortion rights. It's worth noting that those who would be most impacted are Black, Indigenous, people of color, low-income communities, LGBTQ plus communities, and of course, young people. These communities who are already marginalized will suffer the most in a post-Roe world.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah. So Representative, I want to turn it over to you. If you could just tell us, kind of building off of that, what does that mean for Illinois? What would we look like if this does happen, which it seems almost certainly it will?
Well, thank you, Grace. And again, I want to thank Terry. It's an honor to be here with him, and without the help of Terry and our pro-choice advocates around the area and around the state, around the nation, I wouldn't be here today. And this decision is very important for us here in Illinois, because thankfully all the hard work and forethought that Illinois is not one of the 23 states without that will outlaw abortion when or if, I'm still going to hold on hope, but when Roe falls. And if you recall, in 2017, Illinois passed House Bill 40, which removed our state's trigger law that would automatically make it illegal to have an abortion in here in Illinois. And House Bill 40 also addressed the issue of women who rely on Medicaid and for their health insurance, and state employees as well, to have access to abortion care. Now, thankfully, those of us who were elected, the pro-choice majority here in the Illinois House that was elected in 2019, we passed a Reproductive Health Act, and that protected and expanded access to comprehensive reproductive health care, which includes abortion. And again, last year, the pro-choice Illinois General Assembly passed the Youth Health and Safety Act, which repealed Illinois' very dangerous parental notification law that was authored by anti-choice extremists 27 years ago. I want to point out that 27 years ago, the Republicans were the majority and Lee Daniels was the Speaker of the House. And I bring that up because 27 years ago doesn't seem like that long ago. And we need to remember it is not that long ago, and we aren't going back. Now, this is all great news, but again, this is only possible because there have been pro-choice champions in the Illinois General Assembly who have fought each and every year to protect and expand access to care. Terry, I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit? This is very important for all of us. Do you want to talk about maybe elections and some more of what's at stake here in Illinois?
Sure, absolutely. I'd like to. That's why we're here. I just want to say, Personal PAC has been working for 33 years to prepare for this day when Roe v. Wade would be overturned. I mean, our whole strategy over the last 33 years was to elect pro-choice candidates who believe in abortion rights, because that was the only way to prevent Illinois from making abortion illegal and deadly again. So we've been at this, as I always say, pushing the boulder up the mountain one election at a time. We need to be frank here. We lost Roe because we lost elections. That is the stark reality. Starting with the right wingers winning one state election after another. And then in 2016, we got Donald Trump, who promised to appoint justices who would overturn Roe. Not enough people believed him or cared to. And now people are saying Illinois is safe, which could not be further from the truth. The primaries are next month and the midterm election is this November, and every seat is up for re-election. Anti-choice extremists are running for the Illinois Supreme Court, which is elected, not appointed, governor, attorney general, and the Illinois General Assembly. And all of these right wingers are funded with untold millions of dollars by right-wing super donors. We are only one seat away from our Illinois Supreme Court looking like the United States Supreme Court. If we lose these two Illinois Supreme Court races, the second and third districts, and governor in 2022, Illinois will become an anti-choice state, just like all the others around us and between the two coasts. Illinois, on top of that, as Terra knows, there are 22 anti-abortion bills sitting in the Illinois General Assembly today, and they're just waiting for one bad election result to pass those bills and then have a governor who will sign them. So it's really up to us to stop Illinois from turning into back to some of the darkest days of our history, where Cook County Hospital had an entire abortion ward up until 1973 with 17 beds that were filled all the time with women who were brought into the emergency room suffering from illegal abortions. Simply put, if we fail in the 2022 elections, which are now just weeks away, we will see abortion rights lost in Illinois for the next decade and the next generation. So we have a lot of serious work to do over the next several months. Everything's on the line.
Yeah, we do. We certainly have our work cut out for us, don't we? So Representative, I know that you and Terry, you live and breathe Illinois politics, but a lot of us aren't familiar with some of the kind of nitty gritty details. So we keep saying this like once in a decade election and why it's so critical. But could you just give us a tiny little update on why 2022 is so particularly special?
Absolutely. So 2022 is that kind of election year because, as you know, the US Census is done every 10 years. So every 10 years, our maps are redrawn. And this year in particular, it has an even greater impact because we also redid the judicial map based on the US Census numbers. So again, following each census, each state legislature then, we then redraw the boundaries, district boundaries based on those census results. And as you know, those census results were delayed. So things were even delayed a little bit more, which is why we have a late June primary to make sure that every person was counted and that our maps reflected what our populations really are. So in addition to every state and state legislature that here in Illinois, all of our seats are up, we also, for the first time in 58 years, the Illinois judicial districts were also redrawn. So again, the 2022 schedule feels a little bit, I'll say, wonky because we are here in June May talking about a late June primary, and people aren't used to that. But it's because in this election cycle, every House, every Senate seat is up. This also includes the redistricting process, like I said, for all the judicial races for the state appellate court and the Supreme Court. All our constitutional officers, including governor, attorney general, secretary of state, our Cook County commissioner seats are up, as well as Cook County president. And don't forget the suburbs. DuPage County, I'm from DuPage County. All the county boards are up as well. And again, this is not this was 10 years ago that all of this was redrawn, but again, and it's not going to be until 2032 that we have the census again and a redistricting. So because of all this, 2022 really is going to determine the fate of legal abortion in a post-Roe era for those of us in Illinois and beyond. Again, congressional seats, judicial seats, state legislature, and don't forget the locals. This is important. The redistricting process is every 10 years, and we need to remind people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Before working at Personal PAC, I didn't know any of this, and especially with this wonky year, like you said, it's a lot to keep up with. So thanks. So Terry, I know that you're concerned about and really focused about the Illinois Supreme Court. Like you said, it is elected, not appointed, which another thing I learned. So can you tell us a little bit about the court's makeup and why those races are so important this year?
Sure. There are 7 Supreme Court justices in Illinois Supreme Court justices. We have to be clear about not US, but Illinois Supreme Court justices. And they each serve 10-year terms. So as Representative Costa Howard said, we're talking about for the next 10 years and basically the next generation if we don't win this court. The anti-choice extremists are just one seat away from controlling the court in the same way that they control the US Supreme Court. Now, here's what everyone needs to understand. If we allow them to maintain the majority this year, they could immediately erase all the protections and rights, including HB 40, the Reproductive Health Act, and the repeal of the parental notice law that Representative Terra Costa mentioned. And that we have worked so hard to ensure over the last 33 years that could all evaporate in one election. That's why it's essential that we elect judges who respect the right to privacy in our decisions. I want to make one final point. None of us should waste an ounce of energy or a minute of our time arguing or attempting to change the minds of people that don't agree with us. They are not the issue here. The issue is the over 70% of Illinois voters who believe abortion should be a private decision between a woman and a doctor, full stop. Our job is to get that 70% to the polls to vote for pro-choice candidates. That's it. That is why Personal PAC is 100% focused on this job and always has been. And that's why we've been so successful in Illinois. I don't spend an ounce of energy or time arguing with the other side. What we're trying to do is make sure that everyone who shares our point of view is already out there, that they join our mission. And that's the only way we're going to save Illinois from the looming disaster. And what I want everyone to do is I want you to think back to November of 2016, when Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton. There were so many people out there that thought that, oh, Hillary's going to win. There's no way Donald Trump can be the next president of the United States. And I am so scared because I'm hearing the same thing about Governor Pritzker. Oh, JB, everyone likes JB, is so popular and everything. If we allow that mindset to set in, we are going to lose so much in Illinois. And I want people to think back to 2016, how you felt on that election night. I just want everyone to settle into that thought for 1 minute, because I'm telling you, if we do not all marshal everything we have in order to win, we are going to feel 10 times worse on November 6th of this year if we lose the Supreme Court and Governor Pritzker loses, because that's going to spend it's not just going to be hypothetical. We are going to lose abortion rights in the state of Illinois. That's how serious this is. And Grace is going to put up 2 graphics here that I put together this morning, and that will demonstrate what I'm talking about. Great. Those are not them, Grace, but well, she did a great job putting them together today. There we go. Okay, here's what I want to talk about: pro-choice voter turnout. And what I did here is I used voter turnout matters. So if 90% of the anti-choice voters turn out based on 40% here, they get 70, wait a minute here. Yeah, they get 58%. We get 58%, 69, 60. I'm sorry, the blue and the orange just switched around here, which is confusing me, and I just realized it. So the pro-choice candidate with 58% of the massive pro-choice vote gets 6,960 votes, but the anti-choicers with 90% turnout of their vote wins the race with 7,200, which means we are leaving 42% of pro-choice voters on the table by not talking to them, not voting, not getting them educated about what's going on. So that's the challenge that all of us have right now, to volunteer in campaigns. And if I can say so, I heard Jan Jakowski speak recently, and she said, turn off MSNBC, get off of Facebook. I mean, what we really need to do is get out and talk to people that are outside our phone booth, outside of our circle, and start having conversations with them. And that's why canvassing door to door for a candidate like Terra Costa Howard is so wonderful. Like, I have a state rep and a state senator who I don't have to worry about. So what do I do on a Saturday afternoon? I take 3 friends out to Glen Ellen to Terra Costa's campaign, and we go door to door and talk to voters in her district about how wonderful she is as the state rep and how her opponent wants to outlaw abortion, even in cases of rape and incest. That's the kind of work that we need to do in order to elect pro-choice candidates. Now, Grace did me the favor of putting up another graph here, and there's been a lot of polling that shows what's the pro-choice and the anti-choice volunteer participation here. And I need the chat to go away so I can read what's under there. Thank you. So if we get, taking our original number, if we get 3% of pro-choice volunteer participation, which is what we get a lot, which is what the polling has shown us, that's 360 people volunteering in campaigns. The other side gets 15% of their 40%, and they have 1,200 volunteers. So again, the message is, it's really up to us to not worry about the other side, to not try to change any minds, but we need to do the work of communicating with our pro-choice voters. And I'll grant you, people are very, very busy with their lives. They're dealing with families, they're dealing with childcare issues, especially suburban women, dealing with childcare issues, dealing with trying to go to work, dealing with children going to school. I mean, their lives are very, very busy. So for us to show up at someone's door and say, hey, do you know about your state rep race? I mean, we've done polling, 9% of people know who their state representative is, and 17% know who their member of Congress is. So it's really important that we get out there and do the volunteer work, which is why we put Jane's Army together, because what we're going to do is we are going to have events coming up that you can go out and volunteer in campaigns like Terra Costa's campaign, or for one of the Supreme Court campaigns that are coming up. And the other thing is, all of us, I want to finish with how much we all possess the power to get this done. We are not powerless. There is, we could all spend the next 6 months spending hours a day volunteering in campaigns. You don't have to leave your house to do phone banking for a candidate. There's postcards that need to go out. You can host a coffee for a candidate if you live in a targeted district. Like, not every state representative needs the help like Terra Costa Howard does in a general election. There's always something that you can do to help a candidate. So I want to finish with a famous quote from Jane Fonda, who said at our last luncheon that the greatest source of therapy is activism. And it will make you feel so good, trust me, to spend just 2 hours or 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon walking door to door for a pro-choice hero like Terra Costa Howard. You can be home by 1 o'clock. I always take my 3 friends to lunch as the payoff for them to get them to go with me. And then they want to go again the next Saturday because they meet her and they have such a good experience going door to door. So I'm sorry to go on so long about that, but I think it's a really important point, and glad to turn it over back to Grace and questions. And Terra, do you want to add anything? Did I miss anything?
I was wondering if you're going to tell your lunch story the day that you guys came out.
More than happy to do that. After the 2018 election was such a drag out fight.
Wait,
and it was this.
Call me, Terry.
What'd you say? What did you say?
No, I didn't. I think Sarah just came in, but you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll make this very short, but I've dragged my 3 friends out. It was the Saturday before Election Day, 2018. And I promised I would take them to lunch. They get to pick the restaurant. So we're driving down Roosevelt Road from Glen Ellen, and they see a sports bar and they go, we want to go there. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I promise. We walk in, and who's at the bar, standing at the bar with about 6 or 8 people? Peter Breen, her opponent, was at the bar, and I took a picture and sent it to her. And I was scared to death on one hand and confident in the other, because I figured if Peter Breen was at a bar on a beautiful Saturday day, I think it was like 70 degrees and sunny, either he knew he was going to win or he knew he was going to lose. And so I sent the picture to Terra, called her and said, there were cars with bumpers, his bumper stickers on. And as we all know, the way the story ended up, she won. So that was just a little bonus of that day.
Yes, and Senator Feigenholtz, if you had something to say there, please do. I'm sorry, I accidentally muted you. But if not, oh, go ahead. Yes.
Sarah, speak.
I'm sorry, I'm multitasking. And I just want to say how glad I am that you are all here. Terry, I don't know where you are. I can't hear you, you're muted.
I'm in Chicago, at home.
Welcome home. What a great presentation. I was looking at your PowerPoint. I would love to have a copy of that.
Grace will get it to you.
Yes.
Do you work with Terry at Personal PAC?
Yes, I do. Yep. So I can get you those resources.
Terrific.
Hey, call me later.
Yeah. And Representative, do you have something to add? I mean, you're the person that's out there knocking doors. Do you have anything more to say about the importance of getting out the vote this year?
Well, yes, I could go on because we are at the doors, and I know that as I'm looking at the chat, there's a lot of questions about what are we hearing at the doors and such. And yes, choice, particularly after this decision, this leak, as they call it, occurred, we are hearing that at the doors, that this is an issue for women, and not just women, it's an issue for men too. But I want to point out, it is not just about our candidates who are running for statewide or our statewide office, state representative. I also want to put it in perspective in terms of the judicial races, because to me, that is how, as Terry mentioned, we lost state houses, we've lost races, we lost in 2016. And yes, Julia, we are going to tell you to remember what that felt like, because we never want to feel that way again. And if we do not stay activated, we are going to feel that way again, and we can't let that happen. But the Supreme Court race here in Illinois is, to me, after my own and the governor's, probably it is the most important race that we have. The new Supreme Court map, we have a new district in the 2nd and the 3rd Supreme Court races, and those are what are considered open seats. That said, we have candidates who are running in those races. When people show you who they are, believe them. Do your homework. Look at the clubs that they're a part of. One of the candidates in the Republican in the 3rd district was involved with is a part of the Thomas More Society. For those of you who don't know what the Thomas More Society is, it is, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, if I say this incorrectly, they are one of the most vehement anti-choice groups out there. They are groups of Catholic, tend to be Catholic lawyers. And here in DuPage County, we've had an active Thomas More Society. In fact, again, somebody who's running, Justice Burke, who's in the 3rd District Supreme Court race, he ran what's called the Red Mass out here in DuPage County. And again, when people tell you, they may not say they're anti-choice, because remember, judicial candidates can't tell you what their position is on particular issues. but the clubs that they are involved in, the organizations that they are members of, that tells you who they are and what they believe. So when you see the Thomas More Society, the Federalist Society, that means they don't stand with us. They do not stand for pro-choice. They are anti-choice candidates. And that is important. And if we don't want to look like the US Supreme Court, we must make sure that our Illinois Supreme Court has pro-choice justices. Again, they can't tell you where they stand on those issues as judicial candidates. But again, elections matter. We look at who those candidates are and what they are about. Their resumes are out there. Their bios are out there. Ask yourself, why were they endorsed by different organizations? We can't lose the Supreme Court. I'm wearing purple tonight. Anybody who's seen me, Hannah, looks like you're wearing purple too. I talk about being a candidate in a purple district all the time. What that means is I am not a blue district. I am not a red district. Blue and red make purple. And that is, again, is important. I talk about that from a very suburban mindset because that's what we see in the suburbs. 20 years ago, I don't know, Terry, 10, 15 years ago, even, you could say you might find some pro-choice candidates in the suburbs that were not Democrats. We don't have that anymore. And while I don't want to sound partisan, I'm just telling you what it's like to be a member of a pro-choice purple district. The suburbs matter. Don't forget about them. Don't assume because they were so angry in 2018 and 2020 to get rid of Donald Trump that they are with you. We have to remind them. You have to go back to what it was like to feel that way in 2016. Because we can't go back. And the only way that happens is to keep purple districts.
Terry, I'll even go as far as say the suburbs are the only thing that matters because, you know, the Chicago state reps, for the most part, there's a few exceptions who are not pro-choice, but that for the most part, it is the suburbs and the collar counties that are the margin. I mean, I think it's really important for people to remember that. On my email signature, I have 60, 30, and 1, and everything else is just rhetoric. That's 60 votes in the House, 30 in the Senate, and 1 governor. And the margins of that 60 are all in the suburbs in the six collar counties, Cook County and the city of Chicago. That's where our margins are outside of Cook and the city of Chicago. The other thing I want to add is that Personal PAC endorses in judicial races. Stay tuned for our endorsements in the Supreme Court races. We've already endorsed in the 3rd district, which takes in DuPage County, where Representative Costa Howard represents, and that's Mary Kay O'Brien is the Democratic candidate. She's endorsed by Personal PAC. We'll have an endorsement in the 2nd district in the very near future, which is the north suburbs, Lake, Kendall, Kane, DeKalb, and McHenry, and then it's DuPage, Will, and several other counties, but DuPage and Will are the biggest. I think DuPage is the biggest of the Supreme Court district, right?
Yeah, so it's DuPage. We make part of the new 3rd. We used to be in the 2nd, but now we're part of the new 3rd.
Yeah. So really, Lake and DuPage are ground zero for those 2 Supreme Court races. I want to call on a person who's here who is one of my heroes in terms of campaigns, and that's Esther Pad, who lives in Urbana. Esther, weigh in. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello. Well, I don't know that I have anything to add. It's just wonderful to hear people talking about voting pro-choice. I do think, and not to take anything away from the emphasis on this election, we have to recognize that every election we could lose whatever we got. And you know, the House of Representatives is up for re-election every 2 years, the entire House, and you know, big part of the Senate too. And it's just vital that we get all these people who want to express their anger with marches and rallies to get them marching door to door to talk to voters and to encourage people to keep voting down the ballot. And don't take anything for granted. I tell people, like, if we lose Pritzker, they go, oh, do you really think JB could lose? I say, hey, did you really think Donald Trump could win? We have to keep saying that to people. Remember how we didn't think it could happen. Things happen and they change all the time. But mostly, I have to admit, I've been working on this for 46 years, and I have so much bitterness from like every single election where it was like pulling teeth to get people to vote for the pro-choice candidates. There's always some issue that's more important to them. Well, what about Nicaragua? And what about the nuclear weapons freeze? And what about the war in Iraq? I mean, it goes on. And often it isn't actually a choice. I mean, we did have a problem back in the 70s where we had Republicans who were pro-choice and Democrats who were anti-choice. And, you know, there is still some of that. But the main thing is, it doesn't matter Democrat or Republican. If they are not 100% pro-choice, if they're not committed to opposing all legislation to restrict abortion, then they're no good for us, because that does matter. And the reason we're in the position we are now, as everyone else said, is because the overwhelming majority of people are pro-choice, and the overwhelming majority of pro-choice people don't actually care enough because they don't see the connection. They don't, I mean, they care with all their hearts about, they want the choice, but that's really our number one goal, is to get across to people that every single official who has power to decide abortion policy is either elected or appointed by elected people. And we just have to push that everywhere now that people care, and not worry about getting people too worried about Illinois going down. We need to get people worried without exaggerating. It's just a fact. Illinois can flip from pro-choice to anti-choice. You know, we could be Missouri after one election. Let's not let that happen, because if it happens, it's our fault, not the anti. Thank you.
You know what, Gary, I want to jump in. I am so 100% in agreement with Esther. This is Senator Feigenholz. There's a few of us that are on this call who have lived through an anti-choice General Assembly. Terry's one of them, Esther certainly. I'm not seeing exactly who is on this call, but I will tell you that it is not fun to push your green button and feel uncomfortable, especially if this is something that you're passionate about. And if we ever had to learn how important the Supreme Court is, we've learned it the hard way. Nobody connected the dots. For some reason, I'm so thrilled that everyone here is talking about the second and third Supreme Court, because it's this is the whole enchilada. That and Terra Costa Howard, she's the other part of the enchilada. People who, no matter what, are going to go to the wall for a woman's right to choose. And people have asked since the quote unquote leak, well, aren't we safe in Illinois? Didn't you pass House Bill 40? Didn't you pass the RHA? Didn't you pass repeal PNA? Well, we did, but just as fast as we did all that, it could be undone. And because this is coming down to the states, hopefully not, but it looks like it will. And, you know, politics issues are cyclical. And please don't think for 1 second that Roe is totally safe, that the woman's right to choose is totally safe in the state. It is. You have to start pretty good, and you have to start with the Illinois Supreme Court, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are deciding more hideous that comes up the pipe, and we need a bulwark, somebody to speak at court that will stop horrible things. And just at the doors, Sarah, I have a quick curiosity for you. For the purple districts, are you hearing more about, are you ever reluctant to bring up the issue of choice to people who you don't know where they're at on the issue? How do you do it?
Well, one of the things that I do is sort of talk about the issues that are important to me. You know, sometimes when you're at a door they'll ask you, well, what's important to you? And it's sort of how you lead, right? So I always say I'm the mother of 3 daughters, and women's reproductive health is of the utmost importance to me and is probably my top issue. And then I can kind of talk about what my background is as a guardian ad litem, the work that I've done. Typically, then people will say whether or not they agree with me or don't. And the next thing that I say, though, and again, this is really important, and we talked about how people vote. People can they can say they support issues. How did they vote? If they are an incumbent, how did they vote? Locally, you ask yourself, was there, even at a very local level, was there a zoning ordinance that maybe somebody's running that would have allowed a women's reproductive health clinic in their district? How did they vote on those things? When you vote, you put your money where your mouth is, right? You're demonstrating with an action how you feel about something. I vote for the budget because I'm going to fund, not only do I believe in reproductive health care, I'm going to make sure maternal health is important. So it may sound like something small, but ask somebody how they voted. I don't know, where people are from right now. And Esther, thank you very much for all the work you've done. But again, in your part of the state, it may be a little different, right? So always ask somebody, how did you vote? Find out what that issue is. And so that's kind of how I get people talking. But as Terry mentioned before, as soon as I know they're anti-choice, they will never vote for me. Never. Never, 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 never. So thank you very much for your time. On to the next door. It was I'll be honest, anybody who's walked with me from where I was in 2018 to where I am today, it was hard for me, right? Right, Terry? You think you want to change their mind. You think you're going to change their mind. You are not changing their mind. Keep going. We got better doors to knock and more people's minds to change.
Right. Absolutely. And it is hard because you want to have that conversation, but thank you for your time and move on to the next door.
But the only other tack that might work is years ago when we were really teetering, Terry, when George Ryan was governor. I'm sure you remember. This was Esther's laughing. Anyway, we are, one of the things that we did was the governor established there was something on the Women's Commission, remember? Mm-hmm. And sort of the mantra and the glide path toward bodily autonomy, and that, somewhat scary conversation about choice when there was a Republican leader in the Senate, a Republican governor, and of course, Speaker Madigan, who wavered in those days. He wasn't 100% pro-choice at the time. And so it was a little more like walking on eggshells. So, we sort of slalomed in on, a woman's path to economic independence and supporting her family is to have an opportunity to decide all on her own when she wants to family build, when she wants to get an education, and that removing her opportunity to do that by being pro-choice will sort of create a lot of obstacles for her to achieve it. So, I don't know, Terra. I mean, I appreciate your frontal attack with yours, but another way to sort of, do a little bit of wiggling is to say, you know what, perhaps I may never have an abortion, but I do believe that this is the path to economic independence for women, and it should be their choice.
Does anyone else, I don't want all of us to monopolize the conversation. Are there any other questions out there that people have? Grace, I know you're looking at chat. Does anyone else want to speak up and comment?
Yeah, I also just want to make sure we hear from Hannah shortly too, since she'll be giving us the action items, which people are asking about. But yeah, please chime in if you have any questions.
And then I had one more question to kind of close us out. So Representative, I'm curious about, I'm sure most of you probably know that the General Assembly voted to overturn the Parental Notice of Abortion Act. Was that this year or last year? In the last session. I'm just curious if that's come up at the doors, and if you could just talk a little bit about, I know that vote was very divisive, just a little bit about taking that vote and how you're bringing that to the campaign.
You know, I will say I am not hearing about that as much. Some of my colleagues are, and I again, as the mother of 3 daughters, I talk about it from a personal perspective of this isn't about me. This isn't about my daughters. This is about the daughters, the girls that are out there who don't have those kinds of relationships. Again, I can talk about it from a personal perspective, not just as a mom, but as a guardian ad litem, and the experience that I've had with young women over the years who were involved and who were in abusive relationships, had abusive families. My colleagues are saying, you know, they're getting questions about that, just a little, again, that anxiousness from parents who feel like that's being taken away. We, again, what I would say, when we're explaining, we're losing. We don't need to explain. We need to say, we did this for women. We did this for girls. We did this because not everybody has families like ours, that this is a socioeconomic issue as well. Make it a statement. We don't, and again, if that is somebody's number one issue, they're not voting for us. So it was, and Hannah, you're right. It was a very, very hard vote for a lot of people. But when we hit those yes buttons, we knew, for some of us in purple districts, we understood the risk that we took in making that vote didn't matter. We were there to be champions for pro-choice initiatives. And when you know what your role is, you have an obligation to do that. So I encourage people to help those of us in these purple districts where these were tough votes for a lot of people who may have to answer those kinds of questions at the door. We need your help. Okay, we need your help. We need your help at the doors. More than phone banking, we need your help at the doors. We need your help connecting with individuals that are going to talk about why this issue is so important to everybody, regardless of political affiliation. This is an issue about women.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, I see Ed raising his hand, and then I think that's the perfect segue to kind of introduce folks to Jane's Army, because that's what the whole point is about. So Ed, do you want to chime in quickly?
Yeah, so I've been doing my share this year of going door to door for nominating petitions and putting out in McHenry County, we're putting out things about just voting information so far. And I plan on doing a lot of door to door for State Rep Suzanne Ness this year. You know, an awful lot of the doors have no solicitation, and you know, it varies all over the map. Sometimes they're very explicit, no politics, etc. I mean, what do we do about doors that have no solicitation? Do we just skip them?
I do.
You do? Okay. Okay.
I'll be honest with you. It depends. Sometimes it's a little easier for, like, if you're out, you know, helping Suzanne out, because she's really going to need that help as well. When we're the candidate, sometimes, you know, we'll make a judgment call on the fly. And if you see somebody outside, you're going to do that. If you hit a no solicit door, write a personal note on whatever piece of literature you're probably going to drop. Let them know that you are respecting the sign on their door, but you'd really like an opportunity to talk to them. Again, it allows them to know that you care enough to make sure that you're making that connection with them. But it also lets them know that you didn't just put a piece of paper or a door hanger, you meant to talk to them.
Okay, but leaving literature is okay.
Oh, absolutely. Just like I said, I just write, you know, we write a note again, because you don't want to make anybody mad.
Right, right.
Well, thank you. Hannah, do you want to tell us about Jane's Army and some of our action items? And then if we have any time, we can try to get to any other questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Grace. And thank you, Terry and Representative Costa Howard for this really important conversation. And I know we're all excited to get out on the doors. So Jane's Army is building an army of partner organizations, activists, and volunteers like you to educate, motivate, and mobilize fellow pro-choice voters ahead of November. Our army will take the pro-choice message personally to the doors, streets, and phones of voters across Illinois. With our proven winning strategy, you can join us in strategic campaigns across Illinois to hold anti-choice candidates and politicians accountable for their radical agenda. We'll be hosting virtual and in-person events, taking to social media, text banking, postcard writing, phone banking, canvassing, and more. With Donald Trump's US Supreme Court determined to destroy the 50-year precedent that abortion should be a private decision, as well as protecting the most commonly used forms of birth control, the time to act is right now. And together we can fight back and win in Illinois. So the question is, what can you do? Well, first, you can join us in committing to do your part to make sure pro-choice candidates are elected and anti-choice extremists are defeated this November. There are lots of ways you can get involved, and we'll be sharing opportunities throughout the rest of the year. But the best way to stay updated and involved is to take our pledge by filling out this quick form that Grace is going to drop in the chat. We're going to take a couple seconds right now so that everyone can take a chance to add their name to the pledge. So I think it's in the chat now. All right, another couple seconds. And then I'm sure we'll email that to you as well if you need it. So our next task is that you help us amplify our message, whether that's sharing on social media, emailing your network, or chatting with friends. And we ask that you tell 5 to 10 people about Jane's Army and why our fight is so critical. You can share our website and ask them to join you in taking the pledge. We're almost at 400 supporters, but if everyone takes this action, we'll be able to double our volunteer army in no time. It can be hard to keep everything straight, so we created this one-page fact sheet about the Illinois elections to help. We hope you'll check it out, get familiar with it, and share it with your networks. Grace is going to drop that in the chat as well. Lastly, be sure to check out our website and social media pages for upcoming events and actions. We're going to keep holding some of these virtual events and as well as some in-person programming and information about canvassing. So we'll be in touch with everyone, and our fight is only as strong as our support system. It takes a lot of resources, hours, and people to fight for our pro-choice champions every single election. So if you'd like to make a donation to support Jane's Army and our fight to win this November, you can do so by visiting the link in the chat.
All right.
Or great, someone asked the question, what's the difference between Jane's Army and
Yeah, I saw that.
You want to answer that? Yeah.
Sure. Yes, thank you. And I think I kept up with your references, Hannah. So there's links in the chat for folks. And yeah, great question. Jane's Army, like Hannah said, it's a new campaign. So it is a work of Personal PAC, but also Men for Choice, which is an amazing org that, what is the word I want? Activates male identifying folks to support choice and to show up for women's reproductive rights and reproductive rights in general. And then also Future Voices Council. So it's a collaboration, talking too fast here, collaboration between those 3 organizations, and it just launched in January. So it's really all about this election to basically get people fired up and to show up for amazing candidates like the representative we have here today. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll send a follow-up email with all of this information, since I know we discussed a lot tomorrow. So you can just reply to that email, and I'm happy to chat through any questions you have. But we have a few minutes, and it's a beautiful day, so I don't want to keep people if we're all set. But if anyone has any final questions or any remarks from Terry or Representative Costa Howard, please chime in.
Can I say something here? Maria Peterson. I am actually running against Dan McConkey in the 26th district. So I have the pleasure of running against somebody who is clearly anti-choice, the architect of many laws, model legislation that he has created through Americans United for Life. And we definitely want to get him out of office. So if anybody is interested in helping our campaign, it is mariapetersonforsenate.com. Click on how can you help, and we would be more than happy to take you on in. I mentioned in the chat that as I've been knocking on doors, low score, I'm working on the persuadables, and low score persuadables are actually asking me what I think, because they don't want their daughters to have to suffer what they did and having to ask their husbands for credit cards and so forth. And then when people ask me, turn it around to me, I say it kind of like what Senator Feigenholtz said. I say, you know, this is an issue of privacy and equality. And I bring up my husband being trained by women and how he respects women, and that women should get paid as much as men, and that women's privacy should be highly respected. And that pretty much nails it on the head with these women in pretty conservative areas. So my area is a 50-50 area, and it's doable, but I need an army out here to help out. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to end, and I know Terry will have some words, but from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each and every one of you, regardless of where you lived. You helped me defeat one of the most I'm going to say the most, although we have a new one now, but the most anti-choice, anti-woman legislator in the Illinois General Assembly. And it was because of all of you and this organization and the member organizations of Jane's Army and the volunteers that came out and helped me knock doors that we flipped that seat. We sent word that we will not go back. We can't give that up now. This is not the time to sit and watch TV, maybe send a postcard or two. We need you to get out there and help us activate people to want to vote. There seems to be this like calm sentiment, and every time we say, well, it's gonna be a tough year this year, yes, it's going to be a tough year for them, not for us. We are going to show them that anti-choice candidates do not belong here in Illinois, and we won't have it. That means we've got to get up off the couch, put the shoes on, practice our door knocks, because we need all of you as part of our armies to remind voters what it means for women to be able to make their choices about their lives. We are not going back, and we're not going to go back because of all of you. So thank you very much for everything that you have done for not only myself, but every pro-choice candidate that's out there.
I have nothing to add, Tara. You stole my, and just other than thanking everyone for being here tonight and supporting Personal PAC and our candidates. And again, if you go to our website, we have our endorsements there. So, and feel free to share those with everyone you know, and we will have one or two more coming in the next week or so. So specifically the 2nd Illinois Supreme Court District.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for this. I'm a total newbie. I didn't know anything about Jane's Army. I got forwarded this from my sister-in-law, and I've been feeling very despondent about all of this and not knowing what to do or where to put my energy and time. And I feel like relieved right now and have found an organization that I can join to fight for this. And I think that your messaging is just right on about Hillary in 2016 and how surprised we were. And yeah, I'm very appreciative of all the work that you guys are doing, and I'm ready to join the Army.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We're so glad to have you. Like I said, I'll send an email tomorrow, and I'm really excited to get to work with you all. And thank you for being here, and take care until we see you at some door knocking.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.